everyone. Thanks so much for coming back to my book chat. I am your host, Melody McAllister, and a special shout out to the Alice Keeler Teacher Tech and Thrive in Edu Facebook communities. Tonight will be my last book chat until after Thanksgiving, and I'll be back for one last book chat of 2022 with author and publisher Jillian Du Bois. You can catch my live book chats on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And if you missed the live, the replays are just as awesome. And I'm so glad you're here tonight. Educator, author, speaker Andrea Bitner joins me tonight. I was absolutely moved as soon as I started reading her book, Take Me Home. This true story pulled me in immediately, and it's a quick but emotional read. If you serve English language learners, if you are an English language learner and you can empathize, or you just care about your neighbor and those around you, this is a great book to help support them, and you'll love reading it. So, Andrea, welcome to my chat. How are you? And can you tell us a little bit about your background?
Oh, thank you. And thank you so much for having me. It's awesome to be here. And absolutely. So I'm an English language learner teacher. And for 23 years, I've been working in the field of education. Didn't start out that way. Most EL teachers don't start out as EL teachers. Started out as a high school English teacher, quickly figured out, hired right out of college over the weekend, and learned that my kids couldn't read. And it bothered me enough as a high school English teacher to go back to school again and become a reading specialist. So I spent some time in school getting a master's in reading. And then from there, I started to work with the middle school population and got really curious about English language learners because I started to have some of them in my group. I was a reading specialist. And so I had this great grade level partner, Mike, across the hall who worked with ELs in the building. And in time, I started to think, I would think I would love to do that too. So I went back to school again and became an EL teacher. And so for 15 of the 23 years I've been teaching, I've either been working in EL or in Title I reading. And now I'm in full-time EL with grades 1 through 8. So I've worked with everybody through my career.
Yeah,
Yes.
That's an amazing story. And is this your favorite part of your teaching journey?
Absolutely. Working with this special population, I think is really rewarding. And it provides a lot of, long-term vision for me to kind of see students as they grow through the years, which is special.
I love that. And so what inspired you to write Take Me Home?
So about 10 years ago, I was working with a particular group of students at the high school level, and I had 40 different students in about 25 different languages. And they came from all walks of life. I had kids who were adopted. I had kids who were exchange students. I had kids who were born here. I had kids that had crossed the border. I had kids who had waited 10 years for that visa and came after their parents. I had kids that had came before their parents, and we had this great group of kids. And we had this mentality in our classroom called "What's your plan?" And it was this big banner. And every time our students became seniors, we would have our alumni come back and visit them that year, and they would bring them a t-shirt. And that t-shirt would celebrate wherever it was they were headed next. It didn't matter if it was entrepreneur, military, college, university, college, YouTuber, whatever it is they were headed toward next. Those seniors were waiting for the alumni to come back and celebrate with them and share with them about what was waiting for them out in that world now that they're young bilingual professional people working out there. And so we worked through this program and these amazing kids. And I had this one particular family, the Lopez family. And I worked with all 7 of their children. There were all boys and 1 girl, from Sergio all the way down to Nancy. And they happened to be kids that were from El Salvador. And I've traveled to El Salvador 3 times myself through my career. So I knew this family. I knew their country. I'd been there with them through all the navigation they went through in inquiring English. And so they completed this "What's your plan?" And about 10 years of working with this family, we had 1 girl named Nancy. And so about a year after Nancy graduated, I was teaching one day and there were a bunch of helicopters outside. And I thought, wow, I hope everything's okay. It's kind of strange today that there's some helicopters outside of my school. And about an hour after that, my principal came down to get me to let me know that one of my students had been hit by the train. And that student was Nancy. And unfortunately, that day she died. And she had a pair of headphones on, and she was walking along the inside of the train tracks, and she didn't see the Acela, and it clipped her from behind. And so that really threw our EL family at the time into a sense of trauma. All these young people we were working with, the teachers, the community. Dad's a pastor in the city. Mom works alongside of him. And so we had to navigate over the coming weeks the funeral process, the immigration process, working through all of the supports the family was going to need to start to bury their daughter. And so at the time, one of my jobs was to speak at her funeral. And so I wrote this short poem and we called it Take Me Home. And it was an homage to Nancy's crossing into the US. And I kind of sat that on my desk and I continued to teach these amazing kids. And a few months later, I saw it sitting out and I thought, well, maybe somebody could be helped by this story. And so I sent that piece of paper out to a bunch of publishers. And about 6 months later, a publisher got back to me and they said, hey, Andrea, we really like your poem, but we don't want you to write a poem. We want you to write a book. And we're going to give you about 6 months to do it. And if you come back with something we like, we're going to take you on and publish you.
Wow.
And so I started to think, well, I don't just want to tell her story. I want to tell all of their stories because they're so different. And in my 15 plus years of working with English language learners, a lot of people make the assumption that that label equals one thing.
Right.
And so I spent those 6 months and I went back and found 11 of my former English language learners who are now in their late 20s and early 30s. And they're all these young, amazing bilingual professionals out in the world. And I asked them questions. And one of the questions I thought we had missed was this. I said, you know, guys, we knew that we needed to accommodate for you. We knew how to help you navigate your high school career. We knew how to work with your families. But now that you're a young bilingual professional living and working out in the world, and you can reflect upon that experience for yourself, what was that really like for you? And so through those conversations, we hit almost every continent, and I tried to hit almost every experience. And we created Take Me Home, the true story of 11 of our former bilingual kids who give a firsthand account of what it's really like to become bilingual in the US. And we're really proud of it. It's been well received around the country.
It truly is a beautiful story. And like I said, when I was trying to introduce you, it just pulled me in right away and very emotional. Obviously, Nancy's story is just heartbreaking. When you named your characters, you gave them, different names. You didn't actually use their real names. How did you decide? Like you used navigate, embrace, chase. I think was chase one of them.
Chance. Yeah.
Chance.
Yes.
Like, how did you come up with these different names? Did they choose them or did you choose them?
So I chose them, and it was really important to us that we gave them these names because I wanted them to exemplify names of strength. I wanted each name in each chapter to symbolize the strength that it took for them to go through each experience. And that was really our thinking behind it. Let's show these names of strength.
Yeah. I thought that was really a really neat idea. And also to protect, their not to be nosy in their personal lives either. I'm curious, how did Nancy's family receive the story? How did your students receive the story? And can you tell us a little bit why, or what that led to? Like, yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. So, yes, absolutely. I'm still very much in contact with all of Nancy's family, and they were a big part of writing this piece. I interviewed Nancy's parents for her chapter in the story, and we sat down and had a great conversation about our message and our mission and the work behind it. And we were able to really gauge Nancy's perspective on how she felt about coming over to the US when it was time for her parents to bring her over. The other young people in the story are equally excited as I am to spread this message. And, they're very much involved with the process. They actually created a documentary piece that goes along with the book. So when we do go out and speak to groups around the country, we use that as part of our presentation. Everything about this presentation is them. It's their voices. It's their perspectives. They designed the videos. They are so much more technologically savvy than I could ever be. And they've put together some really beautiful pieces to go along with the book. So sometimes they travel and they come on the Zooms, or they'll come out with me to meet teachers and educators in person. So they're really proud of this work as well.
Can we find some of those documentaries on your website?
We do not have them on the website. We do
Okay.
include them in the presentation, but what we do have on the website is Take Me Home's first year journey. So they actually did that as well. They put it to music and they put photos of places we've been and reactions we've had and reviews they've received. And I'm constantly sending those things to them. Look where we're headed next. Look what we're working on. Look how these educators are connecting to you guys. Look at the lives you're changing. I'm constantly reminding them of this, their bravery in participating in this project.
I know I didn't prep you for this question, but like, what have educators, when you've presented, what have they said to you? What's been the response?
So I just presented yesterday, and we have a form that they fill out to ask that. What are you going to stop doing? What are you going to start doing? And what are you going to continue doing after hearing these resources and this work in this book today? And people have said a couple things. They've realized that lack of language never equals lack of intelligence, which was
Yes.
huge. They've realized that they've got to keep their eye on the long-term goal. And, as John Gordon talks about, that binocular thinking, not that microscope thinking. They've realized that it's really important to connect with their English language learners and how to connect their kids building wide, county-wide, statewide.
Mm,
They said they've realized the importance of their impact on working with families and how their parents of any kid for that matter are really the root to their children, and how it's their duty to use resources to communicate in a way that gives them the best platform to share. And
I
so,
love that.
yeah, I mean, it's been awesome.
That's incredible. I'm actually getting really emotional because I think what you're doing and what other educators that are, teaching English language learners specifically, I mean, it's just so important. And you really touch that in the book, like, because you talk about like how each person is feeling as they come into the United States from where they came. And, you know, um, it really takes the reader on that journey. Like you talked about Nancy's story and how they were, I guess, on a bus hanging on the bottom, and I'm like visualizing that. And she was tired, she wanted to give up, she's just it's a little girl.
Mhm.
And a couple of the brothers, I was it Grit and Fuel,
Grit and fuel, yes.
and
Mhm.
just how they came on, through El Salvador. What is it called when a coyote leads them through? I
Mhm.
mean, you know it's such a humanizing way to show that these young people really did like have to go through a lot just to get here. And another young man, his mom saved everything she could. And then he was at the airport. Nobody was there to pick him up.
That's
He's
right.
just 16 or 15 at the time. And I can't even imagine sending one of my kids off to a place that I thought was great, but
Mhm.
they didn't know, I mean, it was just such an emotional journey. And again, like I said, it just really makes you connect in a human way instead of like the political climate where it's very strong against a lot of times immigrants that are coming here. So
Absolutely. Thank you for saying that. And then that's exactly what we were hoping for. That people would connect and reflect and question and, really see these young people not as deficits, but as having a superpower.
right.
They start to realize right around third grade, because I've worked with kids in all different grade levels. Our first and second graders don't even realize yet that they've got this superpower of being bilingual. One of my first graders put it very simply to me the other day. I said, Sophie, I said, do you know, I said that you have a special gift that your mother has gifted you with? She's giving you this superpower that you can speak more than one language. She kind of looked at me and she goes, Miss B, I just talk to you in one language and I look at my mom and I talk to her in another. Like it was really that simple. But right around third grade is when they get that social awareness and they start to go, oh, like I can do something my friends can't,
Yeah.
and then middle school, sometimes they start to feel that a little bit of shame about it. You'll see a change and it's like, oh, I don't want anybody to know that. And so we really try to promote that positive aspect of being bilingual to everyone, not only to the kids, but to their parents. Their parents will go, I'm really sorry. I'm still learning English. I
Mm.
wasn't sure, I should try to speak more English at home, but I speak twee. And I said to a dad the other day, that's your love language. That's the language to your child. We got
Mhm.
the English. Don't worry about it. And
Yeah.
it's like you're gifting them. You're gifting them.
Yeah.
No, and so now it's like, okay, if all the families and the kids are on board with that, let's help all of our education family celebrate and learn how to work with students that are bilingual too.
Oh, I love that. I'm very like I've just this really does make me emotional. Some of my very favorite parents that I ever worked with, and I'm still friends with, are English language learners themselves, but they were the most supportive, and
Mhm.
they really have high expectations for their children, and they supported me as a teacher um, in a way that just was so heartfelt and has always stayed with me. So I really appreciate that you're saying this. And another thing about your book is that you can see it's not very thick, but not
Mhm.
all of it is in English. You have two stories here. Can you
We
tell us a
do.
little about that?
Sure. We wrote it in English and we also had it professionally translated into Spanish within the same book. And that was really important to us for a few reasons. The first reason was because it was really important to me as the author that Nancy's parents be able to read in a language they prefer about their daughter. And
Mhm.
so that's one of the reasons we put it into Spanish. The second reason was is because we wanted to expose readers who maybe do not have a first language of Spanish about what it might feel like to look at something they've never seen before, or what it might feel like to try and muddle through words that they were unsure of, or even how to pronounce. And so putting both languages, and one day we hope it's in English and Arabic, and English and French, and English and Tweet, etc. But to start out with Spanish, we felt would be able to extend its reach and give people a sense of what it might feel like to be an English language learner or a Spanish language learner.
I love that so much. In fact, I got into their stories. I wanted to know more. I feel like if you wrote a book or if you partnered with each student to tell their story, you might have like a lot of more books coming. I'm just saying, I won't be disappointed if you decide to go in that direction.
Yes, you're not the first person that has asked me that. They're like, I want to know what happens next, So yes, it's something we're thinking about.
Good. How has this message of Take Me Home, how has it changed you, as an educator, just a human being?
Oh wow. I mean, so many unexpected great things have come out of working with this mission and writing this story. And number one, just being able to honor these amazing young people and help people see them as I did and our school did and our district did, has been life-changing for me. Just hearing the reception it's received from educators everywhere helps me know that we made a great choice in sharing their stories with the world, and just helping the world see that, when you meet someone who's learning English for the first time, please realize that their learning of English is just a chapter of their life, and please treat that chapter like an asset and not a handicap.
Right.
And that's what they taught me. That's what
Mhm.
they taught me. And I am just in awe of them when I sit and watch my bilingual kids flick from Arabic to English within 30 seconds. It
Mm.
just amazes me every single time. And I'm just really proud of them that they're able to go out there and be people who can access the world in many ways in a matter of moments and be able to put forth the work to do it successfully.
One of your characters talked about how he actually wasn't one of your students, but he helped your students. And he talked about how his culture and his parents raised him to be more open to other people's cultures, but that when he was around his friends at school that
Mhm.
spoke only English, how
Mhm.
closed off they were to
Mhm.
other cultures. And so has this changed you in a way to make you more open to other cultures as well?
Absolutely. I think that I grew up, myself in an Italian family, and I didn't know anybody that wasn't like me, and
Mhm.
what I realized, and I actually contributed to another book called The Impact of Influence with Chip Baker. And I wrote about that, and it was a personal chapter. And I said, what I realized as I got older is that the gift of life is that nobody is just like you. and
Yeah.
i and I think that that's what these young people have taught me, and I'm just lucky enough to have learned that from them, and that's the best part.
It truly is. Thank you, Rochelle, for watching. Yes, her book is amazing. I know that you will love it. And I'm going to see her soon. I might take it with me. It's light enough to travel with. So,
Nice.
Rochelle, you're going to be in for a treat. So, this is my favorite part of my book chat when the author actually reads their beautiful words out loud. And I want you to read as much as you want. And, I'll hold your book up while you read. It's so beautiful. But
Thank
tell
you.
us a little bit about what you're gonna read and then go for it.
Sure. So I am going to read from a chapter called Fourth Quarter, where I write about how the students have come in towards the end of the school day and feeling really defeated. and what I learned in that moment and what I was hoping to teach them about their life moving forward. And then I'll read a little bit of the ending.
Okay.
So this is from fourth quarter. And it says, it was now 2:00 p.m. All of the other students located the ESL classroom, slumped into chairs, and were secretly thrilled that their first day had ended. Their spirits were broken when their final teacher of the day entered the classroom. She was not surprised by what she saw. Silent thoughts, heads resting on arms, eyes weary and filled with defeat, personality stolen, hope lost. Yet in that same moment, she smiled. She knew that the fourth quarter, her final journey in their opportunity here in America, was just beginning. She knew that the victories, challenges, triumphs, and failures that they would experience over this chapter before they headed into the adult world would prepare them to accomplish all that their families had hoped for. They weren't allowed to close that chapter today. They just didn't know it yet. And then I'll read a little bit from the end. And it says, trust that in time, the rain will strike your strong, experienced bilingual mind and rapidly evaporate. 91% of the words you hear will be in a language you now understand. 150 words per minute will process like sparkling light bulbs. By the end of each day, you will look forward to tomorrow's storm. For your life is no longer about surviving it, it's about dancing in it. No matter how long it takes you to learn how to dance, I am always, always proud of you, Miss Bitner.
Oh my God, I love that. Uh, yeah, comparing it to the rain and just one part, you're completely lost in the rain. It makes no sense. And the other part, it starts raining down on you and you get it, like you're thriving. I mean, that's just such a great illustration.
Thank you.
Um, I absolutely love it. It's such an emotional, story, and I can see your passion coming through. I can only imagine what it's like to sit into one of your presentations, especially with your students around you. So I hope that we get to um, cross paths again, and I will be able to make it to your presentation when that happens. Um, and it's just so cool. And I want to give a shout out to the Teach Better conference because that's where we got to meet face to face. So that is so wonderful. So give a shout out to them. I like to ask, people that join my book chat, and this can be something that is has to do with your story or just something that you're seeing right now where you are in your role as a human being, as an educator, as an author. What is some wisdom that you'd like to share with all of us?
I was thinking about that, and I've spent, 43 years on this earth and 23 years in education. And most of the time that I've worked in schools have been as a support teacher, where I'm supporting families, supporting colleagues, supporting kids. I switch groups every 30 minutes, right? Switch grades all day long. And I found that no matter whether I'm an EL teacher, a reading specialist, a high school English teacher, a mentor, a coach, it doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing or who I'm working with. I feel like people, human beings, are all looking for the three same things. They're looking to feel respected, they're looking to feel accepted, and they're looking to feel admired. And if I can provide an atmosphere where people feel that energy from me, and not just on their easy days, but on their hard days too, I find that the collaboration and the respect and the admiration for each other becomes reciprocal really quickly. And that's what I think everyone in the world is just looking for. Respect me, accept me, and admire me. And that's something I believe in and I found has been a life-changing and game-changing way to approach for me.
You know, I think this was just divine that you are here, like on my chat this week. And if you're watching the replay, this week is, the midterm elections week. Veterans Day is in a couple of days. It's just such a political atmosphere. And sometimes it can be very divisive and very emotional. And I think that when you think about, like you just said, every human being, if you can respect them, if you can accept them, and even if you can find one thing that you see that you can admire about them. I just think how unifying that would be in our culture today, how we would be able to accept people who are very different from us, and how we would stop labeling them as if they are like othering them, like because they are a part of us. We are human beings, and we can't survive without these connections. And sometimes it just gets a little bit hard and frustrating to live in a world where you feel misunderstood. You add a layer, we're talking about like your story, add a layer that you're not from a certain area and you feel like you stick out even more. It's just it can be weary, make you more weary. So I appreciate those words, and actually they're amazing, and I wrote them down. Everybody, if you can find something to respect, accept, and admire, I mean, that's great wisdom to share, and I appreciate it. We have come to the end of the show. I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to join me tonight, Andrea. I hope that other people will find Take Me Home. It is on Amazon, and I will put your website. What can they find? Is there anything you'd like to shout out about your website?
Sure. So you can find us in various platforms. Andrea Bitner Books has a little bit about our journey. There's a quick video there of where we've been in the last year and places we presented, and we'll keep going. It's got some great information about blogs we've written and more information about the students and things like that. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn at Andrea Bitner Books. And, we are just having a great time connecting with people. So reach out to us anytime. And our book's available all over. It's on Amazon. It's at Barnes and Noble. The publisher is Austin Macaulay. And my mom called me and told me it's at Target, apparently. Did not know that. So it's been in various platforms, and we'd love for you to read our story and hear what you think.
If people want to book you, can they go to your website and book you?
Yes. So there is information on the website that they can message me directly there or on their social media platforms. And there is a sheet on the website that details more about our presentation as well.
Awesome. Have you just visited schools? Is there have you presented any kind of maybe outside of a school yet?
We have. We presented at conferences. I was just at AMLE last week in Florida. We presented throughout this past year. We've been to Texas. We've been to Ohio. We've been to Florida. We've been to Delaware. I just presented locally. I was sharing for the first time yesterday. We've also presented at the university level, working with future teachers. So we presented at Millersville, Cabrini, Westchester, Newman, and we're continuing to do that. So we've been in many different platforms, and our message has been equally well received across all of them.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. Somebody is joining in and they are saying, I Facebook user, I don't know who you are, but yes, respect, accept, and admire. I think that as we leave tonight, those are words that we can live by, that will help us to unify and to really see the heart of each other instead of just what maybe our political lens or, our first impression lens might, lead us to do. Thank you so much, Andrea. This has been such a pleasure. Don't go away. I'm going to put my outro on. Um, if you actually get Take Me Home and you love it as much as I do, please give Andrea's book a 5-star review, because that's what you do. When you love a book, when you love an author, you give them a 5-star review. So thank you, everybody, and I'll see you in a few more weeks. So thanks, Andrea.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. This is always the hard part, like getting my last part on.